Today we'll be looking at an upgrade to Nintendo's flagship console, the Nintendo Switch OLED. This newest version has been out since late 2021 and has had drastic improvements over the original Switch. More than just a bigger and improved screen, the OLED version makes subtle and substantial upgrades that many can benefit from. Hi guys, my name is Manny. In today's video we'll be looking at the Nintendo Switch OLED to see if this is the right purchase for you. We'll be going over the specs, the performance, and some of the other thoughts and considerations you might want to make when purchasing this console. And if you haven't done so, please consider subscribing to the channel. I post weekly videos on tech and video reviews, so hit that notification bell to stay in touch with all the new content. Now we're going to start off with the dimensions of the Nintendo Switch OLED. And as you can see, it is actually significantly larger than the Nintendo Switch Lite that I reviewed. You can actually check that video review right here. It's about 4 inches tall, 9.5 inches long, and it's still only 0.5 inches thick, so it is still thin and feels almost identical to all the other Switches in the hand. It is the heaviest of the models. You're looking at just under a pound, but still nothing to be afraid of when gaming on it for a long period of time. It's not going to weigh you down. And of course, as the name implies, this is the OLED version, so I can't go without talking about the screen. The resolution is still only 1280 by 720p, so you're looking at the same resolution as the Switch and the Switch Lite. But this is the largest screen that Nintendo has to offer at 7 inches. Now the resolutions may be same between the LCD versions and the OLED version of the Switch, but with the OLED you get deeper blacks and more vibrant colors. So you don't have to worry about getting washed out colors. Everything just seems more vibrant, and it honestly feels like you're gaming in HD. Now, other than a more vibrant display, the OLED also has other benefits like using less power. LED displays tend to use less power than LCD displays, and on this model, you can expect between 4.5 and 9 hours of gaming, but it depends on what kind of games you play. Heavier titles and more intense titles are going to use up more battery life, as well as the brightness you play at all affects battery usage. Now, in terms of internal specs, the CPU and GPU of the OLED Switch is the same as a regular Switch, so you're not actually getting a performance upgrade. Now with storage on the OLED version, you actually get 64 gigabytes of internal storage, and that can be expanded up to 2 terabytes with a micro SD card, which goes right behind the kickstand, a little bit different from the Lite and the original Switches. Now just like all other Switch models, the OLED version also has a touchscreen, and it still comes with a 3.5mm headphone jack. So if you want to have a wired headphone connection, you can absolutely have that with this version, but it also still has Bluetooth, so AirPods or any other Bluetooth wireless headphones will work with this model. Not to mention, there is a rumble feature with this Switch, so you actually get physical feedback when playing games, which is awesome. Now, if you haven't noticed, this is the white version of the OLED. And this is actually around $349 USD and about 420 Canadian. And an interesting thing is these models, from OLED to regular Switches to even to the Lites, can be purchased refurbished on Nintendo's website. So a lot of people may not know this, but with refurbished, it's small defects that Nintendo fixes and sells at brand new specifications and quality with a 1-year warranty. So you can tend to save around $20 to $30 if you decide to purchase directly from Nintendo. But if you're looking at a retailer, like I said, you're expecting to pay $350 for this device. Now, I talked about improvements, and I think one of the biggest improvements with the OLED version compared to the regular Switch is the kickstand that's available now. And it's a full-on legit kickstand that tilts almost to 180 degrees. So if you decide to take your Joy-Cons off and play with this sitting on a table, it pretty much is playable at any angle. The older Switches had a little smaller kickstand, and it would be a little flimsy and it wouldn't be as sturdy as this one. If you're really crazy about it and you want to play at night, I've actually tried putting this on my stomach laying in my bed and it was pretty stable. So if that's something you want to do, it's obviously not ideal, but you can do it with this version. I absolutely love the kickstand, and it's a great selling point for the OLED as compared to the regular Switch version. And speaking of the Joy-Cons, they are removable, so they come right off like the regular Switch, and they have the same buttons as the original Switch. So you got the regular A, B, X, Y, and the regular left, right, up, down, as well as the analog sticks and the bumper triggers on both of them. Now, the one thing I do wish that the OLED version had done is implemented a legit D-pad that unfortunately only comes with the base model Lite version. I think this is an oversight by Nintendo, but unfortunately this is the only available option you get. But in terms of that, the Joy-Cons are actually quite stable and they click into the Switch without any issues at all. So just like a regular Switch, no difference. Now, if you're new to Nintendo and you're wondering why the Joy-Cons are removable, it's for two reasons. Number one, you can actually attach these to a separate grip to make it look like a regular controller, better ergonomics. But the main reason is it allows you to actually use them as two separate controllers. So if you're using local multiplayer, these actually act as like regular Super Nintendo or Nintendo gamepads, where you have the analog stick, you have the regular buttons, and you have the bumper triggers. I played Mario Kart with my friends locally, and this is actually such a convenient thing that two players can utilize one handheld device. And when I'm referring to a grip, I'm actually referring to this little piece right here that comes included with the box that you purchase with. This allows you to connect the Joy-Cons and use them as a single controller. So if you're playing on the TV or you're playing it in kickstand mode, a little more ergonomic than having two separate Joy-Cons and two separate hands. Now, in terms of gameplay, this is where the OLED version truly shines. If you're looking for the absolute best gameplay experience from a Nintendo's lineup, then the OLED version is the best way to go. Like I said, the screen itself is actually so crisp and so clean. I've had absolutely no issues playing games at the 720p resolution on that 7-inch display. Like I said, some people were hesitant when they first heard that it's still only a 1280 by 720 resolution, but a larger screen, and people worried about pixelation and it look all jaggedy. But with the vibrant colors and the deeper blacks, like I said, this actually looks and feels like a full 1080p handheld device. Not to mention, when you connect it to a TV, you get actual 1080p resolution. Now, I've played newest games like the Ezio collection made from Ubisoft, and I've played old games like Portal that were ported over to Nintendo that were previously released on regular consoles like the Xbox 360, and I've gotten between 30 to 60 FPS pretty consistently. Now, you're not going to get the 120 FPS that you would on potentially a Steam Deck or a regular console like a PS5 or an Xbox, but these are all playable frame rates. And the only issue that I have with the OLED version is I'd say that Nintendo had an opportunity to actually upgrade their Tegra processor, but they decided not to. I think the reason why they did that is it's, number one, cheaper for them to use the same chipset, and they knew that the games that are being developed are going to continue to work on this device, and they want it to be cross-platform between not only the regular Switch as well as the Switch Lite. But gameplay has been amazing, and I absolutely love gaming both on the Switch itself and on the TV. Now, speaking of gaming on the TV, and this is something that I do primarily because I do come from the PC gaming end, I'm used to sitting at a desk and sitting in front of a screen. The new dock for the OLED Switch is phenomenal. Number one, you don't have to worry about the screen getting scratched as you're docking it. They actually gave it an allowable space for the Switch to sit right in, flush with the USB connector without having any issues at all. And the backside of the dock now comes with a removable plate that hides the wire, so it's nice and clean and sits on your desk or in front of your TV stand without it being an absolute mess. Now, in terms of the game library, this OLED version plays the same games as the regular Switch and the Switch Lite. So games that have released in 2017 and up until now all will work with this version. Now, you do also have the opportunity to go with an online subscription, which is Nintendo Online. This allows you to play not only multiplayer games online, but allows you access to older consoles. So you actually download an emulator for both Nintendo 64, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy, Super NES, and NES, and play all those classic titles, which I actually find myself playing 50% of the time. The subscriptions vary in pricing, so if you want the highest tier with the Nintendo 64, you're looking at about $69 a year, which is actually very, very competitive compared to Xbox's Game Pass, which is a little more expensive at around $120 a year. But there are limitations. So with the Nintendo Switch Online, there actually is still a limited gameplay, so you don't get access to every single Nintendo and Nintendo 64 game. I'm hoping that Nintendo fixes this over time as the demand for the subscription grows. Now, so far, it's been nothing but praise from me for the LED version of the Nintendo Switch, but I do want to touch on a few negatives, and one of them being Joy-Con drift. And I actually forgot to mention this in my light review, but Joy-Con drift refers to the Joy-Con analog stick going off-center after a while of use. So that means that the regular position is now off-centered, so if you're playing like a game, RPG game with a camera, the camera will start to pan off without you even touching the Joy-Cons because it's off-center. This happens after prolonged use and sometimes even abuse of the analog sticks. So be cognizant of that. Now, there is some good news. it is covered under warranty. So if you get Joy-Con drift and if you return it within under a year, Nintendo will fix this. However, if you're out of warranty, what you can do is you can actually replace the Joy-Cons without having to buy an entire unit, which is great. Unfortunately for the Nintendo Switch Lite, if you're out of warranty, you either have to go to a third party to repair it, or unfortunately, you may have to just purchase an entire unit in itself. So please consider that when purchasing this unit or any other Switch unit in that regard. Now, my second gripe is with the specs of the OLED Switch. Nintendo had the opportunity to upgrade the CPU and the processor, but they decided not to, and it made me think. I think the reason why they're doing this, and I mentioned this previously, is cost, but secondly, we're now at 6 years of the lifespan of the Switch. So it was released in 2017, and I have a feeling that a newer model or a newer handheld by Nintendo might be released soon, either late in 2023 or early 2024. Now, this is all speculation. I don't know for sure, but history will tell me that handheld devices, especially from Nintendo, don't typically last 6 years without being an upgrade. With that being said, spending almost $400 for a handheld that may potentially be upgraded is a little bit risky, but I will assure you that the games that are offered and the gameplay experience that I've had is actually well worth it. The screen, the OLED of the Switch, is probably the best screen I've ever seen. It's better than my cell phone. It's actually better than my monitor that's only an LCD. So if I was playing on an LED monitor, I'd probably even have a better experience. It's actually phenomenal. Now, this one is not so much of a con, but more of a point that a lot of people should consider. Nintendo is no longer the only player in the game in terms of handhelds, especially really good handhelds. And I'm talking about the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck comes with a lot better specifications and a much larger gameplay library. So if you are in that budget around $350 to $400, you could possibly consider a Steam Deck as an alternative. Now, I think Nintendo thinks that they're the big dog and they're going to sell these units no matter what, and the numbers will say that they're absolutely right. However, with the emerging tech and all the other options available, I think as a consumer, you should consider those before absolutely jumping on the Nintendo Switch as the primary handheld device. Now, that begs the question, is it worth purchasing the OLED Switch? And I'm going to say yes. If you want the best Nintendo gaming experience, you want the flagship console, you want to be able to play in your handheld as well as a TV, then this is the way to go. You get every single feature possible. However, if you already have a Nintendo Switch or a Nintendo Switch Lite, I don't think it's worth paying $350 for an incremental upgrade. Stick to your consoles as is. Now, if you come from either the PC gaming end of things and you're not really into the Nintendo lineup like Zelda and Mario and some of the other exclusives, then consider alternatives like the Steam Deck with better specifications. Now, in terms of the screen, and I mentioned this, and I'm gonna nail this down as much as I can, this is one of the best screens I've ever seen, even at only a 720p resolution. Had Nintendo done 1080p, this would have been out of this world. However, even with the specification it comes with, it is an amazing device. So, consider purchasing it. If you want to purchase it, it's absolutely up to your decision. Let me know if you end up purchasing it and let me know what game you end up playing on it first. But that's the video for today, guys. And until next time, peace.